Hello, 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 amazing friends and amazing, wonderful people. Deflex is here and he just resubbed. So I'm gonna start discouraging people from subbing because I don't know how much more I'm gonna be able to keep up with this schedule stuff. It has been. I'm not handling it very well. So I'm going to have to either cut back on the number of streams per week or reduce them to an hour or something. Because there's so much that is popping up that is not planned. And I need to be available to the client for any of those things at any point in time. And it just happens to be that they are most active between like 11 o'clock a.m. and 1 p.m. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. So I'm similar to that Deflex. Deflex said for me with my level of concentration, if I have to break concentration for anything, it slows me down. Same with me. He said, I don't know how it is for you, but now you know. And if I were you, which I'm not, but if I were, then I would recommend longer streams. Streams that are longer in length, but fewer number of streams. So I agree with you. That's where I was leaning. I'm thinking at the moment. So I'm definite Wednesdays are good. Wednesdays are pretty golden. And we might do something like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's just that lately, even Fridays have been meeting days. Hello, Internet Bird. I'm sorry I didn't come back when I said I would. I'm just now talking about how just surprisingly all over the place my schedule has gotten. I was definitely not expecting that to be like this. Yeah. I want to watch Ignite. Wait, they shouldn't be dropping .NET 7 yet. .NET 7 isn't going to drop until MS Build in November. But if they are, that's really cool. I know that they were talking a lot about .NET 7. Yeah, this is an awesome shirt. Thank you. I recommend them. There's a ton of shirts like this that are great. Yeah, so like yesterday they were talking about what you can do with Blazor and .NET 7, and then bunches of other things. Bunches of other things. I don't even have Finan Man open. So I think this shirt was a gift from my mother-in-law. But a lot of the shirts that I've been finding are Redbubble, not sponsored. Redbubble. And so I do a lot of anti-social, introverted shirt comments. Yeah, this one could be on there. Yeah. My Batman shirts came from... Oh man, I can't think of any other websites off the top of my head because I don't really buy stuff very often. A lot of it is gifted to me, but I definitely bought the Batman shirts and they were awesome. I love them. I think I'm ready to show my screen. Are we ready to show the screen? But how are you doing today, Internet Bird? Enough about me. Let's talk about you guys. What have you been up to, Deflux? I know you said that you're watching the Microsoft Ignite, so don't respond if you are busy listening to them, and I will just continue on with where we left off on Monday. So on Monday we had a pretty good discussion about branch management um, and branching strategies. Because something that came up recently last Thursday, it was either Thursday or Friday. The team, actually, it was the project manager, came up with the desire to have all check-ins to the master branch be controlled so that you have to have at least one other developer do a code review before you can merge changes to master. And their current approach had been everyone works off of trunk and then commits their changes. And after doing so much research and so much reading about different branch strategies and watching videos on it and hearing some really compelling arguments for both sides, of course, the one that I liked was we go ahead and continue working off of trunk for high velocity CI/CD. But we, of course, have the gated check-in where it must pass the tests first. Second, the check-in itself is what gets reviewed. What is currently happening is the initial thought was whenever you're going to make a change, whenever you're going to work on a work item, on a backlog item, you claim that item, or if the item doesn't exist, you create a new work item. Then you create a branch called PR that item number. And maybe it's just that I am too granular with how I do my work items, but one work item is part of a story. So I would rather do that based off of story. But then a story could encompass multiple features. So maybe we want to do it based off of features. And there's just a lot of considerations to make. So anyway, what it felt like was I would be making, so let's say we're talking about this financial management application. One feature or one user story is, for example, I don't know why I control F5, but whatever, it'll still run the app. One user story, gosh, just run the app. Hey, Finance Man. Ooh, and Internet Bird says, I'm doing well. Worked from home today. Not a very productive day. Still recovering from my amazing in Corfu, Greece. Oh, man. I want to visit Greece. There are so many places in Greece that look amazing. I want to experience the culture, the food, the views, the vistas. Okay, so a user story could be I loaded the financial management website and went to the data entry page to enter a payment. I entered my payment details, and when I tried to submit it, I got error messages that said I couldn't submit because certain fields were missing, so I filled in those missing fields and then submitted it, and it showed up in my history and my account balance is updated. So there are a few features that are involved in that user story. One feature is having this transaction history table even showing anywhere. Another feature is the model validation, and another feature is the ability to submit transactions, submit new records to the database, and then getting that updated. So that's three separate features for me. And so if I make my pull request off of the user story, I'm touching a lot of files, I'm making a lot of changes, so my review is going to be pretty big. If I do it by individual effort, so an effort would be, let's just see if model validation works. Let's get that up there. I do that in 10, 15 minutes, and then I do a commit. It'll take more than that, but let's just say for argument's sake, I only take 10 to 15 minutes. And then I move on to the next thing, which is doing my submit button, hooking it up to the back end. And of course, this is after all of the tests are written. So yeah, maybe the first thing I do is write my unit test for saving my payment submits. So that'll be one effort. So then that takes me an hour or two, maybe 3 hours. So I write those unit tests and then I do a commit. And then I want to use those unit tests in my next iteration, in my next branch. So I commit that to master, and then I create a new work item, and then I create a new branch for that work item. But before I'm able to branch off of master, this change has to be accepted into master, which means it has to be reviewed by one other developer who is currently working on their own stuff, of course. And I'm getting interrupted with other people's code reviews as well, because I am a part of this team that is doing the reviews for master. And so it's like, how much is too much? How many changes are too many changes for one pull request? And yeah, just what's the scope of a pull request, I guess, is what the overall question is. And how do we standardize that? Ooh, and thank you so much for the follow. I completely missed that. Do I not have my sound turned up enough? How did I miss that? No idea. I can hear though. Let me just reset my audio real quick so that I can hear. My general alerts and my sound alerts. Okay, I should be able to hear those now. So anyway, the point is we had an initial thought for a strategy that I thought would be too interruptive because of the granularity of it. Ooh, what is that? It is an ASCII dot. Thank you so much for the ASCII dot. Xander Gambit. Yeah, so I thought that it would be too granular. We have 4 devs on the team who are actively working on separate parts of the application and would be committing anywhere between 3 and 10 times a day per dev. And if you think about that, on average, that's somewhere between 12 and 40 reviews that need to happen across 4 people, which is, again, 3 to 10 reviews per person throughout an 8-hour day. On top of that, we all have varying schedules since we have a pretty open working schedule. So we all work remotely. There is the option to go on site if you feel like it. The majority of us work remotely. And we take breaks throughout the day. Like I start my day at 4:30 a.m. and then I take an exercise break at 7:30, do some hygiene related activities, and then get back to work at 8:30. So I take an hour break at 7:30. And then we have our daily stand-up at 9:30. And then I'm trying to stream less, so now it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm thinking. So I stream at 10:30 until 12:30, and then from 12:30 to 3:30 is more billable hours. And the thing is that I've been having meetings that start at 8:30 and go until beyond 10:30 and then meet back at 1 o'clock with the client for other meetings that go from anywhere between 1 o'clock to 3:30 to even 4 o'clock, like tomorrow. Or is that tonight? How about tonight? Yep, tonight we're gonna, or this afternoon we're gonna have a meeting that starts at 3 o'clock and it's scheduled to go until 4 o'clock. And those meetings have been known to go half an hour to an hour longer than they should, or than they're scheduled for. So it's like, when are we going to have time to review each other's code between the meeting, or when are we going to have time to do our own work between the meetings and reviewing other people's code in a regular 8-hour day when 6 of those hours are taken up with meetings and then like 30 minutes is taken up with reviews, but intermittently taken up with reviews. So then the compelling argument that I heard in a video by a YouTube channel called Continuous Delivery. YouTube. And Eagle Hansen recommended this video, by the way. Sauron. This guy. He has this video called Why Pull Requests. I'm so blind. It says it's here. Oh, here. Why pull requests are bad. And he makes a case for the review process that I just described being too much, not working. And his alternative, if you're going to have CI, is trunk. Everyone works on trunk. And you have gated check-ins with tests. And so that you can bake in the review process to the development process, do pair programming. And so that was a topic that came up in another meeting. And the thing that I don't understand about working in a software development company that's really, really interesting to me, and it makes me shake my head, scratch my head, and I have no idea why this is even a thing in the adulting world, but yelling on a Zoom call to try to talk over each other, to state your opinion and not receive any feedback, just so you can say no. I don't understand that as a team working on a same product. I don't understand the yelling part of it mostly. The ears off, mouth open kind of thing. It threw me. And the thing is, it's been happening in not just the team meetings, but in the client meetings too, where there's louder and louder discussions and no one listening to anyone else. We're all adults. We're all adults. I don't get it. But anyway, this guy has some really good videos if you haven't checked him out. If you're interested in architecture, or not really architecture type stuff, DevOps type stuff, this guy has some opinionated opinions that are based off of industry experience and blah, 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 blah. But take them as opinions. Take them as another view for how to look at the way that you develop, especially in a team. So I like it. I liked his opinions. I don't agree with all of them, but they were compelling and I can use them, you know? Okay, enough about that. What are we working on? We are working on Proyecto. We're working on an application called the Financial Management Tracker. You can find it on my GitHub. Here. We're currently working in a branch called Setup Transaction Service. What? Yep, go set up transaction service. And what we're doing currently, our current effort is to write those unit tests for all of our service side implementations. So all of our server side service implementations, such as submitting or committing a new deposit, a new payment, a new transfer transaction, where a transaction here is a uh, financial transaction. Sorry, there are two emails open for me. The email that I use while I'm working for the client, and then the email that I use when or the email that I have open for Sagetti, the actual consulting company that I work for. And now that I mentioned their names, I would like to make a disclaimer that even though I work for Sagetti, my views and opinions are my own, and they may not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Sagetti. Gets easier every time. Okay, anyway. So we're trying to do test-driven development by writing the uh, unit test for the server-side service implementations, just to verify that everything is going to work when we implement them. I went through and wrote in the past few streams, across maybe 20 streams, I think, we wrote the actual unit test for the get, put, post, delete, otherwise known as CRUD methods that are in this service. We only wrote the happy path tests though, and I need to think about what the unhappy path tests are so that we know that it fails when it's supposed to fail. However, the other thing we were able to do after getting those tests to turn red for us is turn a couple of them green by implementing them. So that was fun. And so you will see once it's done actually running, once it's done actually, I wonder if it's not going to run because the application itself is currently running. Hello. I don't think, well, I mean, I haven't really been doing test-driven development or even unit tests in general. So I don't know if maybe it has an issue with running when you are doing .NET Watch. But this is really odd that it's not even doing the spinny I'm trying to run. And I'm sure if I try to build, it's going to say cannot write to file bin debug blah because it's in use. So I might just have to stop the .NET Watch. Wait. Yeah, they're there. Could not write to bin debug net6 because it's already in use. I know. Okay, so we'll stop the app and then we'll try running the tests. This is still not working. Excuse me, why you are not running the test? Run test. What? I'm confused. I like being confused. Not really. Sometimes I like being confused. Bill seceded. Run tests. Do I need to like rediscover test or something? How do I refresh my tests? Kingdom build? I wasn't expecting to be stuck on trying to run the tests. What's going on? RT? Any insights? Maybe close and reopen Visual Studio? Ooh. Hello. Okay, it did the test discovery. They exist in my list. I'm going to wait for it to finish preparing the projects. Failed to restore? What? No, I don't. Anyway, the Mac build, or sorry, the Maui build is not part of my debug profile, so we should be fine. Run. Hey, that looks like it's actually running the test this time. That was really odd. Okay, so we have the add deposit working. I could have sworn that we had the get deposit working. We got some new issues. We got some new issues from changes that I recently made. Great, grand. And it looks like these issues are in the setup. So line 83. Yeah, these issues are in the setup for generating transactions, generating deposit transactions specifically. And it's saying that there is already an item with the same key. Do you have the inner exception? Is there an inner exception? I'm going to guess that it is the actual deposit itself. Yeah, so this is not going to be an issue at all. So the ID that I am setting, yeah, I don't think there's a concept of primary key uh, read-only kind of thing, identity happening on the primary keys. Like I should be able to set the ID for a new record. So where are the places? Yeah, this one would, this one would. But we are here. And this doesn't use a list of anything. So yeah, I don't really understand why we're getting collisions in primary keys. Let's do some Gbug. RT. Gbug mode. Okay, so this has an ID of 1, and the associated deposit has an ID of 1. This one has an ID of 2 with a deposit with an ID of 2. 3, 3, all the way down to 19, 19. And there are no other records associated with it, so we don't have to worry about collisions in other tables. Maybe this will give us the full... What? So it just made it past that step as if there were no collisions. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there was an error now on line 89 for that test failing, which is it's not implemented. I really could have sworn that we implemented this. Maybe it was delete. Which one of these? Oh. It's using the same DB context, and it's trying to add records. I think there's a way. Yeah, the first argument that I told this thing to be is the start ID. So what I'll do, what is a good approach for this? Because I'm going to modify the database in my other tests. So how do I get a new in-memory database every single time? This is a new mock. Wait, I should be getting a new database context every time. Where am I creating my financial management? Aha. Aha. Okay, so they're all getting the same GUID for the name of the database. Got it. So if I do it this way, it's going to generate a new GUID each time I ask for a new DB context, and that way they're all their own individual databases. Got it. Got it. What do you say? There we go. Cool. So I've implemented add and delete. And so now we're going to implement get all, and then get by ID, and then update. Fanta. Don't you wanna Fanta? What does that even mean, by the way? He's in the orange Fanta. I heard that phrase on Dairy Girls, I think. And I have no idea what the phrase means. Okay, let's do get all. Get all is get transactions, async, without an ID. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Didn't we rename this one? Because there would be a collision. Oh, yes, we did. We named one get transactions plural and the other one get transactions singular. Got it. Confusing. Not at all. Not at all. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do here is, right, right, right. We're going to need to set up paging tests too. Man it. Anyway, if page size is less than or equal to, let's say the minimum page size is going to be 5. Page size equals math.clamp page size between 5 and 1,000 records is a bit excessive. 500. All right. So that clamps our page size. And then we also have a date filter. So what I'm supposed to do at this point is write a test that covers all of the cases that we need. Or write multiple tests. Oh, I so don't want to do that. Have you guys ever gotten to the point where, and maybe this is just a me thing, and you don't have to answer, so if you're busy, definitely don't need to tune in. This is unimportant. Have you ever gotten to the point or ever feel like there are so many things that get started and nothing is ending, and the only thing you want to do is finish at least one thing, and that desire is so strong, it's like I'm barely able to catch my breath, and something else is starting now. Like I have this career talk that I need to fill out documents for, and create a career plan, and then have a discussion with my career counselor. And it's like we just started this new effort with the application that I'm currently working on. And yeah, just so many things. So many things. Okay, we don't need the logger yet. I mean, what I might do is for every, yeah, it depends. It depends on how much we want to log, but we could log for every action that comes to the service, the action started. But most of the time, I only use the logger to log exceptions. Speaking of, why isn't that down here? Do I have an example of this? I do. So let's do this. Var message equals, you add error message logger message. Okay, so an error occurred while trying to add a new what type of transaction though? Oh, oh, new deposit, obviously, because no, this is the generic type of, which I guess is going to be my first one. Trans type. Type of pasta. We're not going to have an ID. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Save. Response to add error. No, message. That's what I was trying to do. Arigato. Cool. And so now we'll have the exception itself and just some logging message, logging information for where it happened and when it happened. Cool. So maybe I will take this and put it in the other. Oh, there was only one other implemented thing, and that one's it. Okay. So normal process for me is to declare my find_man context because I can't spell, and we're not going to initialize it yet. IDB context transaction question mark trans. And the reason that I do it this way, and I'm open to recommendations and suggestions for doing it otherwise, is because when I try to get my DB context, my actual DB context, so for example, context equals await context factory dot create DB context async cancellation token. If there is an exception that occurs when I'm trying to do this, I want it to be handled. If I instead put it up here, then the exception is going to happen and it won't be handled. Or I could move my declaration inside of here, which is what it's going to recommend to me this whole time. Oops, I'll just comment this out. Yeah, which is fine, but my transaction is also going to get initialized in here. And what's going to happen is if there's an exception, if trans is not null, so that means that my transaction started somewhere before the exception happened, and I may have successful adds that happened to the DB context before that, then I want to be able to trans.rollback. But I would not have access to trans if it's declared inside of here. And if I declare the context inside, then the scope of context would be inside of only the try block. And so trans no longer has the underlying context because that has since been disposed. So declaring it out here makes the context scope last until the end of here. And then the only thing that I would have to be careful of with this pattern, but now that I'm used to it, is making sure that if trans is not null, to trans dispose async, to dispose of the transaction, which will also dispose of the underlying DB context. So is that, I mean, I'm malleable. if that's not a good way to think about doing this. I guess what maybe I should consider is that if the context is disposed before the transaction is committed, then it's not going to go to the database at all. So it's essentially the same as doing a rollback. And since the only thing we've been working on is the DB context, then we're just going to lose any changes that were made to the context anyway. So I don't have to handle the transaction externally. Because like what I would prefer to do is using var context, using var transaction, except transaction is disposable. Oh, right, is already declared. And then not even have to worry about any of this stuff. Would I be guaranteed that my any failed transactions would be cleaned up by the transaction being disposed and or the context being disposed? Because I'm not doing anything with the information from the transaction anyway. And it looks cleaner to me. I like it better this way. But in this case, by the way, I won't even be using a transaction because I'm not doing any add, update, deletes, any transactional actions with the database. So it's just the context only anyway, so it makes sense for me to only do using context here. But for something like this, I don't know, I'll try it for a while. Using bar. And that way I don't have to worry about this stuff here. I'll try it. It's less code. It looks cleaner. I just need to validate that when the transaction is disposed, if there are uncommitted changes, it will roll back. Yeah, and so you could see something happening where context.save changes is successful, but then within the next millisecond or two, we lose connection to the database. So then we try to do a transaction.commit, and then this fails, and so we get an exception. Cool. Okay, so let's finish this out then. Let's get the logger in here because it's still in my clipboard somewhere. No, I've already copied too many things and it's already out of my clipboard. Summon a permanent pierces forger. An error occurred while trying to get the list of trans type. Yeah, I don't think we need any extra messages on it. dot error. This is a message that says an error occurred while trying to get the list of transactions. Period. We're not going to say what kind of transactions because too lazy. I would need some way to have a friendly display name of the two different view model types. I could do some string truncation and stuff, but what if I wanted to localize these? Then, yeah, that just wouldn't work. Or maybe it would. I mean, the localize would be on type of t data entry view model dot replace view model blank, and then we'd get back payment deposit or transfer your data view model. I don't know what I called it. But yeah, possible. Find out as we go along. I'll probably change my mind 6 times. To never. So let's get our query started. How are we going to get all of the possible transactions? Well, that depends on T-data entry view model. And I think I have an example of operating on a specific table. I don't. Pass in the cancellation token, man. You have a cancellation token. You should use it. What is a good way for doing this? We can, because the service itself is going to be based off of the data entry view model. So the view model, or DTO, or yeah, calling a thing a view model is hard, especially because of MVVM. A view model has functionality for hydrating itself, and this is like apparently it's the James Montemagno approved way of doing MVVM with services, where the view model really only is the way that you display the data, the model that holds what you show to the user via the UI, which is a combination of the entity data flattened out, added extra properties and stuff, but not actually the how to hydrate itself. The methods for dot get all, for example. But I think I might have an extension method, because I like extension methods, for getting back the underlying entity. I guess I could do something more like this. My database entity should have a switch that tells me which type of transaction it was. So if we look at the transaction table, I have a helper that is transaction type. So what I could do, but I would want to do this in one place, which would be my T data entry view model dot get transaction type true. So apparently I don't have an extension method for this yet. Where are my extension methods? We're in a shared library. This would most likely be the shared. Actually, where are the transaction types in the database models. That still doesn't help me figure out where to put this extension. Where are the view models? They're in the shared library, so it makes sense to put them here. Good. Let's try this real quick. Var kind of, almost. Yeah, we're going to page at the very end, but we're going to start with transactions. We're going to include deposit, payment, transfer, as queryable. And actually, this is going to be as no tracking. So I'm going to put that up here because I like having it right next to the entity, as well as queryable. Dukasov, thank you so very, very much. He resubbed for 11 months in a row. Yeah, you guys definitely don't have to keep resubbing. I appreciate you, but with the reduced streams and inconsistent schedule, I don't know if it's going to be a good trade-off, a good I don't think it's fair to you. I don't think it's fair to you. You know? Does that make sense? Do I need to put as queryable? I think the issue was putting a wait in front of this and I wasn't doing anything async yet. But of course, you know, if you are inclined to and you feel like doing it because you feel like doing it, then I appreciate it and I will not turn you away or down. Okay, this is not giving me back a queryable. Cannot implicitly convert iQueryable to iIncludable queryable. Yeah, so I think I do need to have as queryable. It's never fair when I use my money. Oh man. I need to reevaluate my recurring services to find out which ones I'm using and which one I'm not, because I need to. I need to. Okay. The next thing is the one that I am not sure if it is going to work. So if I do, well, I'm pretty sure this is going to work, but I don't know what's going to happen as far as runtime and how much processing this thing needs to do. Is it going to execute the query because of doing it like this? So transactions is going to be transactions dot select, and actually I might do that ahead of time. Oh, but I don't know how to do that ahead of time. Oh. Wait, yeah, I do. Never mind, I know what I was doing. I know what I was doing. Dot select x arrows x dot to view model. So this turns all of my transactions, ret models, into their respective view models, but I don't want all of them. I only want the ones of type T data entry view model. And now is when I can do my pager. Skip, start record, take, page size. And I guess I may as well to list async, passing in the cancellation token. Okay, so at this point in time, what I'm afraid of happening is my transactions executing on this call, which means that I might get back every record from the database first, convert every record from the database, every transaction record from the database to their respective view models first, filter that list to only the data entry view models, then do the pager on that list. And the goal would be to limit the number of records returned from the database to this method. So really, I think I should do the work ahead of time to get the actual transaction type. Okay, I've convinced myself. Dukasoft said, for the next 3 months, I have to fight WordPress. I feel sorry for you too. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm wanting to be too clever. Oh man, I just had this a little bit too crazy thought. Var entity model equals activator dot create instance dot to entity model I don't know why I have a parentheses. Well, we know what the type is going to be. The type is always going to be transaction. The thing, no, that's not going to work. Oh, so close. The thing that I was hoping to be able to do was to get back the transaction type, but without an actual deposit record. This is going to give us an error. Maybe I could adjust this a little, where if this is null, then just create a new one with no ID and amount, else, oops, trying to be clever. He's trying to be clever. Else we populate the actual data. In which we would be able to get back the actual transaction type. So then I would have a private read-only transaction type. That's going to come from the database. And we'll set it here once ever. And we can filter this ahead of time. Transaction type equals transaction type, and that would limit all of our transaction records. Too clever? Hello, Scott. Is this a too difficult to maintain approach? So now I'm constantly thinking about these things from the standpoint of a team. So if someone else were to pick up this code, they'd be like, where is this transaction type coming from? Up here, it's a read-only field, which means that it must be getting set because it doesn't have the green squiggly. And the place that you set read-only fields is in the constructor. Or I guess you could, I think you could just set it in line 2. Yeah, you could set it in line. And then this would be the thing that's hard to read. So we're creating a new instance of tDataEntryViewModel. We're using this method toEntityModel, which will give us back a transaction record that is populated in a way that the transaction type, yeah, they're going to be like, how exactly are we getting the transaction type? And it's because we're getting a value for deposit. And then the other 2 are null. Man, that's hard. Scott, you look like a wombat. But I think that's supposed to be a cat. It's better than any emos I can come up with. Oh, geez. It's a cat. It's a cat on fire. That says everything is fine. Everything is fine. Ka-tink. Whoa. Grant says he's on his way. Grant? Lord Granticus. It'd be a treat to see him. Okay, so we can get the specific transaction type right off the bat. So we can filter by transaction type. The alternative to putting it up here as a read-only field is to put it in line, and that might be more maintainable, is to essentially say t transaction type var trans type equals this type of this switch and oh my goodness. And what we're switching is on pattern matching. Crap, how do we do pattern matching for this? Am I still able to do type of deposit entry view model? Can I just do deposit entry view model? No. I think I have to do the... Man, I don't like that type of switch though. And then we default to transfer. So this would be the alternative approach where it does this every time that we call get. We could also do it up here. But for me, the maintainability of this one is worse because now anytime that we add a new transaction type, we have to update this table. Not this table, this switch statement, switch expression, as opposed to just getting the one that we would get for free from the entity. It's still hard to read though. So is the readability worse than the maintenance? I think in this case, the maintenance is worse. And if I complain about it in the future, and you'll know that for those of you from the future, then shame on me. The end. Oh man. Okay, so these are going to be our return models. So instead of putting that in a variable, now that we are getting them, we are going to San Francisco. We're going to assign it to our retresp dot return object. So my retresp is just a wrapper around the expected result, from the method that we're calling. And the reason for that is because I wrap any errors that happen into that so that if we're doing a request to this using HTTP, then it will always return 200 OK, and then it's up to my application to handle seeing whether this response was an error or not, because I don't want unhandled exceptions to slip through, kind of thing. This kind of forces me to handle all of the exceptions, to be honest. Okay, so I think that as long as I return retresp, what is that one? Flesh-colored froggy? Ugh. Craggy? That's creepy. That's creepy. It makes me feel weird, man. Okay, so with that one done, that should mean that our test is successful. If I wrote the test correctly. It's red. Nullable objects must have a value. System null reference exception. Line 34 of the test. Oh, sorry. No. Line 30, line 11. 11. Yeah, that's the problem. So these fields are required. Dang. And then think about that. Thank you, test, for catching that. You are amazing. Dummy model. dummy the model. Yes, for deposits, we did finish all of the unit tests, and so now I am implementing the methods. Well, I can't say all of the unit tests. I only finished the happy path unit tests. I don't have any sad brown monkey paths. So like a not happy path would be we somehow provide a model that is invalid, so we should get model validation errors from the transaction, from the method call. Which ones were required? You. Okay, just those. Okay, so now this should work. At least it won't fail on the two entity model. That says failed. Line 34. Nope. Line 23 now. What? Two entity model, line 23, is this one. What about this then? Let's just have a default value in here. Oh my goodness. I can. I would. Yeah, Scott. So what I was expecting to enforce here is that amount is never null when I'm trying to convert my view model into my entity model. And that's what I was trying to enforce with the bang. But since now I'm providing a default value, instead of doing a null check first and then providing the value, so like has value, then deposit entry view model dot value, otherwise dot amount dot value, otherwise 0. I'm just writing the shorthand for that, which is question mark 0. But normally, yes, nullable dates, nullable numbers, I would use dot has value if I'm checking for null or not. Line 19. Is it no longer line 19? Are you kappa? Are you kappa? Kappa. I'll get used to I'll get used to trolley faces eventually. Okay, let's go with this test again. Again. My back itches a lot. Still failed. Oh my gosh. Line 55. Okay, so one of my asserts was bad, which means that we got a result dot add error called. So during this process, one of these processes, okay, during this process, we got an exception and then we got an error here. So do we get any output with that? Do we have a console window? Does anything come up that tells me what the actual error was from my ret-resp? No, of course not. So let's put a breakpoint here to find out what the error was. I will control R, control T. I will control my Iron finished it for me. Thank you. I will control my anger. Although for my type, I mean, I still call it anger, but I think the flavor of anger is frustration. I am often frustrated by things. Like I don't know if you were here at the beginning when I was wondering because it baffles me so much. Are you gonna run and debug? It baffles me so much that there are a bunch of adults that are having a conversation about the project with the client, and what inevitably happens during these conversations is people try to talk over other people and they just get louder and louder and don't hear what the other person says, and then they often cut off the other person before they're finished with whatever it is that they're trying to say. So there's no concept of respectfully listening to someone else, even if they're going in a direction that you think they shouldn't be. You still have the time to hear out their full thought, which would take less time than it would to try to argue your point with them. Yeah. I'm okay with arguments. I'm okay with conflicts. But when it dissembles into just who can shout the loudest, I don't understand that at all. Okay, so it's telling me that it could not translate probably the two view model. Yeah, yeah. Excuse me, can I see the whole message? Wait, translation of member transaction type on entity failed? Oh, because it's unmapped. Yeah, put your hand up and ask for an adult. But these are Zoom meetings, so it's only people's voices coming over the wire. No one uses video. And yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. Because EF Core has a specific way of writing link on queries. Yes, absolutely. And so this unmapped field that I have as a helper field only is not going to be able to be used in the SQL query. Oh man. So the field that it's talking about was the one that I just filtered by, transaction type. So I don't have that stored in the database at all. I only have it in this model for doing things like filtering, which means that I am going to have to get all of the records first. So there are two ways that I can approach this. I could either instead of this filter being on transaction type, I could filter on if transaction type is transaction type dot deposit and, or not if, but you know what I mean, and x dot deposit is not null. So I normally write out is not null, but that doesn't translate either. Or the next one. Oops, that's not where the or goes. The or goes in the water. In water. Or trans type payment else x transfer is not null. Oh, which I still do need the specific case. Tifa. I typed Tifa. Did you see that? Okay. So I can either do this or I could wait until after I query for all transactions that are less than or equal to the as of date, if there is an as of date. As enumerable it, select to view model of type. Is there an as enumerable async? As async enumerable. Uh, I mean, I'm gonna have to of type it at the end anyway, but this will at least filter out records from the database ahead of time before performing the query. So that's the benefit I get with this. I wonder if the .2 view model is going to be an issue. I don't think so, because this is just going to be the same as X arrow's new data entry view model, or whatever type of view model it is. So we should be able to keep the toList async. I don't know. Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. I think this is the route that I'm going to go, which means that I can't use the benefit. I don't benefit from this at all. Yeah, okay, so then the second option was to go ahead and to list these results first and then do the select to view model of type and then skip and take. I think I like this approach better. I'm still running into the same issue where if I add a new transaction type, then that needs to be added to this list, and you know, I wonder, is there a way that I could use EF core to make a calculated field? Code first, calculated field, SQL. Um, too many trolls. There were too many trolls. We can't load. Oh, it loaded. Computed some. Okay, and now how do you specify the formula for the property or for the field? Yeah, that question. There's an example here. So it looks like, and I didn't read it closely, but it looks like what you get is during the migration after doing your setup. Wait, no. Yeah, okay. So you just either use Fluent API or data annotations to say that this field is going to be a computed column, and then when you do your migration, then you write out the SQL for um, the formula for the default value. And you can still use the full property. Yeah. So then I guess the question that I would have after that is, can I use a lookup? So this would need to essentially be a case. Um, what? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by emails coming in. What's that be today? I am unavailable at 9:30. Okay. Um, good times. Good times. Okay. I was saying, is there a way to do a lookup essentially in another table that says if the transaction ID from this table exists in the transaction ID column of my transfers table, then it's a transfer, deposit, payment. And I don't think so. So that would be more like a trigger that updates the column. That says anytime a new record is added to the transaction table, then update the field that I want. So it wouldn't be a computed column. It'd be a database table trigger. Okay, so with that in mind, rebuild, rebuild and launch, relaunch and rebuild. Currently, Control R, Control T does not work in the method itself. It's still not. Oh, ooh, a different one. All the things. Absolutely. Abso-flippin'-lutely. Okay, so this one is now saying it could not be translated either. And it's because my inner selector is angry. Yeah, so it's this .2 view model. That's okay though, because at this point in time, we do have the filtered list. We don't have skip and take. Oh, crap, we don't have skip and take. Hello, Boxy Bear. So, man, if I... That really sucks. So the order of my skip and take matters because I need the skip and take to happen after we filtered the list by type. But that also means that if I reorder this such that we to-list it up here, then we get back all of the matching records by type still, but we're getting the entire history. Not the entire history, but let's say that they didn't supply an as of date. And this would be .toList. So it stops complaining. Stop being red. This thing here, let's say that they don't give us an as of date, so we query every deposit record in this case. And well, I guess payments would be more interesting because you tend to pay for more things than you get deposits. Unless you're a business, in which case maybe on a daily basis you have a whole bunch of deposits and very few payments. Whatever. So let's say this is a business and we're doing deposits, the purple deposits. And we have 2 million deposits that have happened from the beginning of time for as long as we have been tracking this. This will list out all 2 million deposits, or just deposits, so there is no select. Then we would get the of type. Maybe. I wonder if no, I didn't fix the fail. I suck at this. Actually, it's not going too bad. Maybe I don't need to view model it there, but I do need to view model it here. That's not a bad idea. So I'm still getting back the list of transactions of the filtered type of the, yeah, with the date filter on it with the skip and take, but I'm only getting back the transactions themselves. Then I am turning it into view models. Duh, this is fine. This is going to work because I have already filtered by type. I have filtered by date if they provided a date, and I am now paging, skip and take. Which if I'm paging, we should probably order by something. So I'll need to do this at some point in time, but for now we're just going to assume an order of date descending. I would, Scott. The problem is that I can't use this extension method to material or to transform it. I think that's what the issue was. We might need to relook at the exception. Order by descending transaction. And I'll do this right before the skip and take. Yeah, let's double check that. It might be this where clause that's causing the issue. That passed. That passed. So yeah, it was definitely having the transform first. Yeah. Or projection, to use the appropriate term. Okay, so I'm going to break this up into 2 lines. I don't normally like to, but I think it'll be cleaner for us. Yeah, it'll be easier to read what's going on. And then I'm going to try to refactor this code and move this transfer projection into the query. Be like, why is it breaking? Short-term memory. Okay, so just one more check to make sure that it passes, and we can successfully say we implemented the get happy path. And I guess we were kind of testing the fail happy. No, we weren't. We weren't. The fail path here would be what? Starting record is negative. So we'll say that starting record will not be negative. Why not make it an unsigned int? Then we won't even have to worry about that. And then if the start record is larger, then we'll then cast it to an int. Jerk. Oh, but that's going to have wraparound if I do that. Yeah. So, yeah. I would need, well, unless I do this, unless I go start int, oops, oh, start record equals math.min of start record, which is from 0 to 8 billion something. um, I read about uint. Why is it more often used? So in this case, we don't want negative numbers. So Tyron's thought was, why not make it uint? And one of the things that uints can do, though, is go from 0 to twice the maximum positive value of regular int. So this method here only accepts ints. Yeah, and ints are used most often because you do want to accept negative numbers. What's half of an int? Is that a short? Can I just do uint 16? Because if I do uint 16, then uint.max, so var max 16 is not equals is uint 16.max value versus var max 32, which is a regular int max value. These two should be equal. Because the maximum positive value is half of the maximum uint 32 value, which is what I was going to clamp it to. So if I do uint 16, then the maximum positive value will not exceed the maximum int value, maximum uint 32. And we can cast directly from uint 16 to integer. U short. Yeah, exactly. U short. So I just wrote it out like that. But U short is uint 16. No, U short. So anyway, great idea. I like it. I'm keeping it. Let's just make sure the test doesn't fail. But the point is also, you're right. You're right. I don't ever use capital string capital. Oh yeah. And then I need to update my interface. Which means that I probably want to do that for page size too. And actually, page size is going to be even smaller. So U single. Are you single? There is no uint 8. Looks like the smallest we get is U short. Or not single. Single would have been single per float, right? The best error case is the one that's impossible to hit. But yeah, that's perfect. But the other thing that I'm doing with page size, though, is clamping that one on purpose. So I'm clamping page size to between 5 and 500. Do I have to cast these two? Is that what's going on here? Yeah. Oh, you bite. Wait, not you bite. Byte is just 0 to 255 only, which is yeah. Wait. Yep, I bite. That's not that's 4, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything. But I mean, that is a cool way to do it. So maybe I own. No, I'm not a video game developer. We're not going to go off of 256 and then have issues. I mean, it was complaining at me. Oh, okay. I didn't know what the letters were that you put at the end. Capital US. Um, it doesn't like US. I prefer the letter at the end, so float, decimal, unsigned int. But it did not like US. You fall. You shot. Aww. I do like that syntax better though. But that's okay. We have an passing test. So with that one passing, let's check in and then do get by ID in the next 7 minutes. We can do it. Implemented deposit transaction get all. And we went green. Commit locally. And the next one, oh, I should have put the notes in there that I updated the mock data helper so that we got a new DB context every time, or a new in-memory database for every test. Yes, I do. I do. So that means that I'm not planning on modifying any of the transaction records that I get back. So I do it up here. Yeah. Right off of the entity. So get specific transaction is going to be similar. So I'm just going to copy pasta because lazy. He said similar. Async as no tracking include first or default. So this is something that hurts me. We have a method called singular default that you can use to get back one and exactly one record that matches your criteria. Oops. ID equals ID. However, let's say that we had, again, a database that has over some large number of records, and we're looking for something by ID, and we use singular default. What it's going to do is query until it finds the record with that ID, gets that back, continue the query to make sure that there are no other records that match this criteria. So we're still needing to go through all of the records And since this is an indexed ID field, it's not going to be that painful, but it is still going to take some time. So if we are sure that we're querying on something that's a unique index, for example, we could just use first or default. And that way, as soon as we get the record back, we stop the rest of the query execution. We don't need to look any further. I learned that one from Nick. Nick Chaps. Because I haven't used find. So I'm not familiar with using find. And is there a find async? Why don't I have find? So one reason is because I don't have find on this for some really weird reason. I mean, I want to use it. So apparently you can't do it after as no tracking. So I lose the ability to remove the overhead of setting up all of the tracking for it. So let's say that I get rid of as no tracking. Can I still use the includes? Ooh, I think it's from the includes. Good grief. Yeah, it has to be directly on DB set. Yeah. And then that means that I would be forcing myself to use lazy load for the related fields. And I don't want to do that. The related navigation properties is what I said. So I'd rather do the upfront setup no tracking so that it doesn't do any tracking setup. All of my includes, which this is going to be null, this is going to be null for a deposit. So that's not too much extra effort. And then first or default. Async. Crap. And now that's a nullable return object, which it looks like it is. Response model of T, yeah, it's nullable. Okay, so that's fine. All right then. The transaction, the specified transaction. With ID. Id. Cool. All right, so what do you say? Is it just going to work? Why would you so Scott says I use toList async first or default. Why would you enumerate the whole, not enumerate, materialize the entire list first just to filter out one record if you're not going to use the rest of the list for anything? So this is going to give back every record in the database, and then it's going to filter that materialized record. Just a service layer, not repository pattern. Good question, Tigerflip. So the question was, by the way, are you using repository pattern as well or just service layer? Okay, so it's God's use case. He works with reflection. Cool. Well, we have a passing get by ID implementation. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Scott. There are certain cases where you need to materialize the entire list first, and then, I mean, we just had one up here where we had to materialize lists before being able to. Well, we didn't have to. I could write. I don't know if I could write this easily, but I could potentially rewrite this in the select predicate before executing the query. But that's it. Implemented find deposit by ID. I'm committing and pushing. Those are going to be updated on the GitHub repo. We're going to this screen because that is the end of my stream. I really appreciate you guys being here. As I mentioned in Discord, I will be pretty intermittent with my streams. I'm thinking of doing only Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Thank you, Dukesoft. I forgot about that again. And I guess the other thing to mention, now that I am being reminded of that, like always, is I will still continue posting the videos 24 hours after the stream, or after the stream ends, to YouTube's. And there it is. And yeah, if you feel like it, hop into our Discord, hang out with us. For those of you that might not be there already, for those of you that are, thank you so much for contributing to all of the conversations. Dflux just posted the link to the Microsoft Ignite event that's going on currently. So definitely feel free to check that out. I strongly recommend it. I'll be watching videos from it throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow. But of course, I'm going to have many, many meetings, which is not going to be fun. So yeah, that's going to be it for me for today. I will expect to stream again on Friday, not tomorrow. Yes, Friday. So we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday for now, see if it works out. If anything comes up, I'll make announcements on the Discord, etc. But yeah, we're going to do some reduced days just for a little bit. Okay, hope you guys have fun. Enjoy so much. You even sewed me. So nice. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for the subs, for Dflux and Dukesoft. 37. Really appreciate you. Get SO'd. All right. Ciao. The message is lying to you. I just said Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Why didn't it update itself? Guys, help. Where's my AI?